Hey everybody, what's up? It's your girl Bondi Blue and I am back for another 911 review, y'all. Okay, so the episode starts off with this really huge apartment fire. So the crew gets there and everybody, like, you know, individually gets into gear. Henrietta ends up helping a man who has been experiencing some nausea, experiencing excessive urination, and she thinks he might have a thyroid issue. So later on, when they bring him to the emergency room, she gives very specific instruction to the nurse, to the ER doctor, or whoever it was who received the man, what was going on with him and what help he was going to need. Buck jumps into a window to save a deaf woman who was stuck in her apartment. Her apartment had all this fire all around her, and you know, she's just cowering, trying to... Buck ends up jumping into a window to save a deaf woman. It's like really high up, so he was hanging from a rope when he, you know, jumped through the window with his feet, kicks the glass in, and he gets the lady, hooks her around him, and on his way down, the rope catches fire. So they're watching as the rope is burning, and eventually they're going to end up dropping. Now, down below, they have one of those huge inflatables that they're trying to inflate, but they don't know if they're going to be able to get it inflated fast enough to save Buck and the old lady, okay? But of course they end up getting it inflated in time, and Buck and the deaf lady are saved, and she was so thankful to him. And y'all know that's like a drug for Buck, okay? He's a hero and he loves it. So after, Buck wants to celebrate, he wants to party, but everybody has something to do with their significant other, reminding us that Buck is lonely and he has no one, and no one understands why. So he goes down to a bar and he meets an old man. He's watching himself on the newscast and he's smiling, he's all proud of himself, and the old man is like, stupid. Buck says those people are heroes, okay? And the man, you know, eventually lets him know by way of conversation that he is a firefighter himself, okay? Once a firefighter, always a firefighter, even though he is no longer fighting fires. And the man's name is Red Delacroix, and he's telling Buck all these stories about his past when he was a firefighter and all the good times that him and his firehouse had. But everybody has grandkids and family, and now the only time that they get together is when one of them dies. You can pretty much guess that Mr. Red Delacroix is lonely. He doesn't have a family of his own because he was too busy trying to be the best hero at the firehouse. And it's hard for a woman to compete with someone who, you know, wants to be at work all the time. Like, nobody wants to be with someone who is always at work, especially when there's a possibility that you can die. It's too stressful, especially if you don't make her feel like she comes first. Even if she really doesn't, you gotta lie to her. And Red wasn't lying. So the lady, you know, that he was interested in, I guess, eventually left him. Well, now Buck is thinking about his life. And will that be him in 30 years? Will he be lonely? You know, no wife, no grandkids, no family. Just an old firefighter with no fires to fight, sitting in his living room waiting to die. It's sad. I hope not. That's so sad. So y'all, Bobby and Athena are slow dancing to some Billie Holiday by candlelight, okay, with fresh flowers and everything. It was sexy. I was like, child. Oh, Lord. Henrietta comes busting in on their date, and Karen is sitting in the car, okay, waiting for them to go to the Mexican restaurant for their date, which is lackluster as hell compared to what's going on inside Athena and Bobby's place, okay? But she heard that the man who she saw at the apartment fire died, okay? I think his name was Anton. So she asked Bobby to call the hospital and find out what happened because she gave specific instructions on how to help him. While Bobby's on the phone, she's taking notes, okay, about how romantic it is up and around here, okay? When Bobby comes back, he says the man died of a heart attack, and it was probably caused by his thyroid issue, which she told the doctors about. So she doesn't understand why she assessed the issue and tell them how to fix it, and they don't fix it, and now the man is gone. So it's another person that Henrietta feels like she's lost since she lost that girl in the car accident. She did her job. She doesn't understand why they weren't doing their damn jobs. I said, I don't know either, and that is very frustrating. So Buck sees Red home, okay, because he's been drinking, and he sees this picture of him from '83 with his firehouse, and then another picture of him and a young woman. And he says, yeah, that was Cindy. I was really in love with her, and we spent a lot of time together, but over and over again. He was working instead of going on dates with her to the baseball game and all of that type of stuff. So eventually she just gave up. Buck runs back to the crew, talks to them about Red, how he's so upset this hero is living alone with nobody and he needs help and he needs people to be there for him, you know. And everybody is looking at Buck all excited and upset, and they're like, oh, you seem to be more bothered by Red's life than Red is by his own. Buck asked the crew, well, what happened to Red and his crew happened to them. And they're all like, no, we're family. You know, we're family. That'll never happen to us. But really, even in families, like, people have immediate family. They have their spouse, their kids, you know, whatever. And that becomes the main focus a lot of the times. And it's not a slight. It doesn't mean that we don't care, that we don't love each other. It's just life and time gets away from us when things are more immediate. So y'all, then we see a dad and his son, okay, and it's obvious that the dad and the mom have gotten into some argument. We don't see the mom, but he tells his son, look son, let's go ride scooters. And he's like, but mom says she doesn't want me riding scooters. And he says, well, guess what, I'm not your mom and your mom's not here and I don't have to listen to your mom. She's not the boss of me. And the little boy was looking at his daddy like, boy, bye. He was like, yeah, okay, your mom is the boss of me, but she's not here right now, so let's do this, right? So y'all, they call themselves getting on this open scooter. I mean, you know, just flat bottom and something to hold on to. Him and his son going in and out of traffic, not slowing down. It was very scary. He should have slowed down after he almost ran into a car door. But oh no, they kept going because it was fun. And then do you know what they did? They ended up rolling over a drone that fell out of the damn sky. Okay, the police get there. Athena is there. And the dad flew into the air and went into a bush and got stuck in the bush, so had to cut him out of the bush. His wife is gonna kick his ass, and his son has a whole bunch of scrapes and blood and bruises all over his head. He's okay though. But either way, the subject matter turns to the drone that fell out of the sky. There's a neighbor who says she saw that drone flying above her house. The owner of it is some creepy guy that's obviously trying to get out of this situation when really he should be arrested because he shouldn't have been flying that drone above that lady's house. Okay, talking about he was doing it for his business, but it was his own private drone. So Athena, because she can tell something wasn't right, arrested him and took him in and asked for somebody to get a warrant and look at the SD card inside his drone to see what he was recording. So Buck, oh Lord, being the ever romantic that he is, Buck finds out that Cindy, you know, Red's old lady that he was in love with at one point is still alive, and her husband just passed away. So he convinces Red to get in some really nice clothes and brush his hair and head over there to her house so that they can rekindle or just have a conversation. I don't know. When they get to the door, the woman seems to recognize him, but she's obviously, you know, older, and she has someone there helping her like a nurse. They sit down at the table and they talk, and the woman, you know, is all happy and she seems to recognize him, but then they start to realize that some of the things she's saying isn't connecting to the stories that Red is telling. You know, something isn't right. And that's when they realize that the lady must have Alzheimer's or, you know, dementia or something where she has forgotten, you know, where she has lost her memory. And it also causes her to get upset once she's realized that what she thought was happening isn't what's happening, because I think she thought Red was her husband or something like that, because she was like, oh, this isn't whoever the name was. And you know, then she got upset and you know, she wanted them to leave, and Red was like, I'm so sorry, I didn't want to upset you. And then they leave. Of course, Red is pissed off with Buck for setting him up for the fall and doesn't want to spend any more time with him. It's like, just leave me alone. I was fine before you came into my life upsetting shit, so just leave me alone. Athena finds out that the guy she arrested with the drone is a peeping Tom. One of the videos they found was of a woman undressing in front of her window. So Athena goes to get them to put him into an interrogation room so she can ask him some questions, and the feds said they wasn't gonna come down because of the drone issue. You know, why waste the gas for something like that? So they didn't come and they released the guy. So now she has to go and find him. Buck talks to Maddie about what happened with Red, which leads to Abby pointing out that Buck must be lonely and seeing himself in Red. Buck feels like Maddie is always the person that is leaving somebody, so she doesn't understand what it's like for him to be the one that's always being left behind. And y'all, then we hop over to a cooking show where the chef has a nitrous oxide whipping cream container stuck in his chest. There's a little tube that came out and went right into his chest. I was like, oh my God, he's bleeding, like really bleeding, like out of his chest. And they had on-set people, but the on-set people couldn't do anything with that. So Henrietta and Chimney get there. They get the man into the ambulance. He is bleeding out into his chest, and Henrietta knows whatever that shrapnel was that went into his chest from that, you know, little whipped cream container. She knows that he's gonna die if she doesn't stop it from piercing his aorta. Okay, so she's not supposed to cut into him because she is just a paramedic. She is not a surgeon, but she decides that she is not losing another person. So she cuts into him and she holds on to his aorta until they get to the hospital. Some asshole doctor is so upset that she went outside of the boundaries and did that because she's just a paramedic. She's not a doctor. She's not supposed to be doing that. Henrietta is tired of hearing this shit from you people that are allowing people to die that could have lived when she dropped them off at your doorstep, okay? So she told him that until somebody comes in there and fixes it so that this man doesn't bleed out, she's not taking her hand out, okay? So they take her into surgery and a female surgeon comes in. And, you know, she clips the aorta and stops the bleeding. And she tells doctor, she was like, doctor. And Henrietta didn't know who she was talking. And Henrietta didn't know who she was talking to. But she was calling Henrietta doctor because she supposed, based off of the work Henrietta did, that she was a doctor. But of course, the old pissed off ass male doctor, okay, it's like, she's not a doctor. Okay, she just broke every rule in a book. And the female surgeon is like, well, you know what they say about rules, don't you? So then we see Buck get called to the hospital for Red, y'all. Red is dying. He has mesothelioma, I think that's what it's called, which is a form of cancer. And they say he's gonna die soon. But of course, Buck is trying to figure out a way to save his life, but there's no saving him. He's 40 years too late. So he asked for Buck to just sit and talk to him, and he tells him, you know, more of his old war stories, which is really all that man wanted to do, was to talk about a time in his life that made him happy with somebody who was interested to hear him. That's really all he wanted. Back at the firehouse, the guys get Henrietta a white coat, you know, kind of messing with her about, you know, Dr. Henrietta, look at you. And Bobby walks up and he was like, that was good work. She was like, I know, boss, I'm sorry, it'll never happen again. And he was like, look, nobody died, okay, but don't ever do that again, okay? But I don't know why I was like, Henrietta, don't you think that maybe you should think about going to school to be a doctor? I mean, damn, girl, you did do a great job under pressure, and you always do. And maybe it's time for you to be on the other side of, you know, the ambulance. I'm just saying, y'all, the way she was looking at that white coat, I was like, Henrietta, you gonna be a doctor, girl? Oh, I'm here for it. I am. So y'all, Buck gets Red from the hospital. Red doesn't know how Buck was able to get him out the hospital, you know, seeing as though he's dying. But I guess Buck was like, you know, we're gonna make sure that he's okay at home, you know, that he's comfortable and somebody's with him. So as Buck is wheeling him out to the fire truck, y'all, the hallway is lined with firefighters, you know, with their arms up at attention. And it was so emotional. He was like, you did all of this for me? Y'all, as soon as that happened, y'all, I was crying. I was so emotional, y'all. It was like this man, you know, really sacrificed his life in a way to be this firefighter to save lives. And sometimes that's people's calling. That's what they're supposed to do, you know. And it still took so much from him because he didn't have anything left after it was all said and done. You know what I mean? Yo, to watch this man react to all of the firefighters, and then when he got to the end and all the fire trucks was out there and Bobby standing there and tells him that he's gonna ride in the captain's seat, you know, on his ride home. Y'all, when he got up into that fire truck and turned around and looked at Buck, and you could tell that he was gonna cry in the truck. Oh my God, y'all, I bust out crying. I was crying. And then we see Buck talking to Maddie the next day. He had died at like 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And the LAFD is going to pay for it. So, you know, that's all taken care of. But he's still, you know, upset about him being alone and what his life was like before Buck came into it. And Maddie is telling him, you're not gonna be like Red. Red's life is not your life because Red didn't have me. Red didn't have a sister that loved him. And even though I left before, I came back because you're my brother and I love you, and you will never be alone in this world. And y'all, I was just like, you know what I'm saying? Because it's just so emotional. It was a good episode, y'all. I was touched. Can we now find somebody for Buck? I'm exhausted. And then I see Connie Britton is coming back. I was just like, for what? For what, Connie? So you can take us through an emotional roller coaster again? Whatever, okay? Y'all, then we see Athena. She gets to the drone guy's house. They're doing a search of his property. He's not there. He left in a hurry. But they did find a shed on his property, like a garage or something like that, or a room. I couldn't tell what it was, y'all. Okay? But it had a hell of a lot of tapes in it. So they started looking through the tapes, and one of the tapes was of him raping somebody. He's a serial rapist. Not just a voyeur, not just a peeping Tom, but a rapist. So now they gotta find him. Now it's a manhunt. I wonder what's gonna happen. Yeah, y'all, this was good. I really enjoyed this episode, y'all. It was the first thing I watched because my cable was acting stupid. So when I finally watched everything later, this was the first thing I watched, and I really enjoyed it. But anyway, y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed the review. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. I love y'all. I hope y'all are being safe and healthy out there, and I will see y'all in the next one.